This webinar is focused on procurement budgeting and how it helps procurement professionals, sourcing managers, purchasing heads, and even any person who's related to the planning within their organization. With me today, I have our Senior Vice President and Head of Procurement Insights, Sid Podar, who I'd like to welcome. Hey, Sid.
Thank you, Faizan. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you, everyone, for joining this webinar today. Hopefully, we'll have a good conversation about procurement budgeting and how to optimize the processes and leverage Anaplan as a technology platform to be much more effective in budgeting process. So today we are going to talk about direct material procurement budgeting. So, right, for most organization, budgeting becomes a very, very essential function. It is typically done at the beginning of the year, okay, and usually for the next year. And as part of that process, it does provide a significant amount of benefits for the organization throughout the comprehensive budgeting management process. The first and foremost, a budget management process helps organization deliver a financial target. So especially in a very high inflationary market where borrowing money is extremely expensive, you want to utilize the capital you have in the most effective way. And a strong, robust budget management process will ensure that we are keeping to the commitments to the business, financial commitments that we signed up for. The second advantage of a good budget management process is definitely management of spend and savings by the procurement organization. Cost savings is one of the very important KPIs that procurement teams sticks to. Therefore, delivering on that committed spend and delivering savings is a very necessary aspect of the budget management process. The third key benefit becomes management of suppliers. So through the budget management process, we realize that who are the suppliers who are offering us great offers, who are the ones who are passing on a lot of cost increases to us. Therefore, identification of great partners, not so great partners, suppliers with volume discounts, those type of guidelines get established through the budget management process. And based on the budgets that have been prepared, some commodities might undergo much more unfavorable inflation compared to a favorable ones for certain commodities. The pricing strategy that the organizations will use for their products could differ dramatically as well. Therefore, through the budget management process, we do realize that which are the products that we need to promote, what is the price increases that we can pass on to the customers, which are the products where our margins are getting better, so we can pass on some discounts to the customer in order to manage the product portfolio better. The next one becomes obviously the supply risks. So through the budget management process, we do realize or understand which are the commodities that are going to get supply is going to be constrained if the inflation is extremely high. Where all do I need to identify alternate sources of supply to establish a continuity of supply protocols so that my supply can be ensured. And last but not the least is optimization of supply chain. Through the budgeting exercise, we do understand what are the bottlenecks in the supply chain, where do I need co-manufacturing assistance, where do I need co-packing assistance, what are the hubs or places from which I should be sourcing, and network optimization for the entire supply chain. Those are the starting point that happens after the budget management exercises. Okay, so having established that, yes, budget is one of the most important process. Now let's take a look at how organizations are doing that budget today. Okay, so typically, since the process is so important, however, based on our conversations with a lot of CPG, FMCG organizations, manufacturing organizations, majority of organizations are still working on an Excel file as a shared Excel file across different teams to do that budgeting process. Now, there are different team members that need to get involved. Supply chain needs to get involved to provide volume forecast for each ingredient or each material. Finance needs to get involved to review the entire budget plan, establish the exchange rate that are going to be used for next year and so on. And procurement obviously is a very, very important player in that budgeting exercise where they need to review the proposed pricing at each ingredient level for each specific plant, for each source of supply, so as to information can get aggregated and form a holistic budget. Now, using an Excel file, while it has its own advantage in terms of flexibility, but it does make the process extremely time consuming. And there are several other challenges that are listed on the right-hand side. I'll go through some of them. First and foremost, collaboration across hundreds of people on an Excel file is not the most effective way. It is time consuming. It takes month to 2 months for a team size of 100 or so people to collaborate. The dependency of updating of Excel file, that once finance will update the exchange rate, then procurement will update the pricing. And before all of this happens, supply chain needs to update volume. Therefore, real-time collaboration does not happen. There is a lot of waiting around and people need to go back, check the file, whether the other teams have updated their information or not. So it makes it very, very inefficient process. Another big challenge is the no collaboration with suppliers. So today, for most procurement teams, when they have to do their budgeting, they have to contact suppliers to understand how is the market for next year. And that process is completely offline. So procurement teams frequently during the budgeting cycle, they will reach out to suppliers, ask them how is turmeric doing, how is glycerin doing, how are the commodities expected to perform, how much should they budget. And supplier provides all of this information over email, over phones, which then the procurement category managers has to reinterpret, aggregate information, and then put a budget number. Imagine if there was a solution where suppliers can collaborate in real time and provide all of their inputs onto a central platform. And then you will have an entire audit log or a trail of what information was provided by supplier, how much buffer was entered by the procurement team, and what was the amount that actually went into the budget. So that is a big gap, that auditability of how the budget is aggregated is not there. And then there is a two other challenges I would like to talk about. The first one is no workflow capability. So when it is in Excel, there is no workflow or approval. Whatever information has been entered, there is only so much a category lead or a procurement lead or a finance lead can go through line items. So they generally look at the high level information and question only very, very aggregated numbers. However, at a workflow capability, if it is enabled, you can actually set up protocols that can guide the teams on as soon as on a particular ingredient or a commodity, the expected budget increases by a certain threshold, it creates a workflow. So that will help or assist in identifying anomalies that are embedded at each item level rather than at an aggregate level. And last but definitely not the least, one of the things that IT teams will definitely agree with, sharing of company confidential data over an Excel file is not a very sustainable or a good way to do. So it exposes your organization information or data to the outside world, to a lot of people who may be unwanted on that Excel file as well. So definitely information security becomes a big challenge. I'll pause here and we'll do a quick poll. We'll do a quick poll to understand how do you do your current budgeting process in your organization. But the interesting thing about the whole budgeting process is that it is not what it looks like. It's not a one-time exercise that you share an Excel file with the team members, 100 or so team members, they collaborate and do it. So I'm so sorry to use that iceberg analogy. It is done to death. However, there is nothing else that can better reflect what that budgeting process actually looks like. So budgeting is just one small, very, very tiny visible part of the process. Behind the scenes, in order to build a budget, in order to execute upon a budget, there is a lot of other activities that happens. First and foremost, supplier collaboration. Before you go on to building a budget, you need very robust collaboration and understanding with suppliers, so they can provide you the intelligence that is needed to build an effective forecasted prices for the next year. What we need is a robust procurement process to complete your sourcing and contracting activities. We need buyers, planners, and other team members to allocate the supply appropriately to the suppliers. That I may be doing the best of the budgeting, but if I allocate most of my supplies to an expensive supplier, my budget can go for a toss. Order management process, timely issuance of purchase orders, managing of transportation costs, managing of lead times so that I am not overpaying for expedited shipments, etc. That is a very effective strategy to manage towards budget. And then entire receiving, invoicing, and payment terms, right? Sometimes we may end up paying other penalties or other charges to the supplier for not paying them on time. And last, doing a very, very strong cadence on the variance management, that it is inevitable that some variances will come. Due to nature of the commodity market, there are some materials which will not hit the expected prices that has been planned in the budget. So in those cases, how do you address it? So you understand that, yes, there is a variance coming in. It could be favorable, unfavorable, leveraging on the favorable variances, locking in better contracts at the right time, as well as if I identify that the variance is unfavorable, it could be volume, it could be FX, it could be pricing. Having a robust strategy to navigate those variances is also a very important step into sticking to a budget. So now we will take a look at how exactly does organization does all of these activities and where does Anaplan comes into picture. So in a typical process, if I have to lay all the things that we discussed in the previous slide, you have to lay it down as a process. The first and foremost is procurement, finance, and supply chain collaborates to build a budget. Then procurement will negotiate rates with suppliers, keeping continuity of supply in mind. So we'll make sure that there are multiple sources identified on multiple locations, especially in the current environment where geopolitical tensions are extremely high. Climate changes are devastating geographies every now and then. So you do want to make sure that your critical materials are not being sourced from a single location or from a single supplier. Therefore, hence, procurement has to put in contracts that may not be available at the time of budgeting. So new information or new prices are being negotiated at this point in time. Then based on that, procurement or category managers will create a strategy of their primary and secondary suppliers, allocation of supplies, how much material they want to allocate to which supplier. So there is a nascent understanding usually between the procurement teams and suppliers on how much volume is going to be allocated to them. That's called TAM, or total available market. Once procurement provides that guidance, the buying team will actually issue the purchase order for delivery of specific volume to a certain plant. Now, sometimes buyer teams tries to stick to the procurement allocated volumes, but due to the nature of amount of material requirement at each location, there may be some deviations from the procurement strategy. So procurement may allocate that 50% of volume should go to supplier A, but when the buying team is actually issuing the PO to the supplier, it may become 45%, may become 60%, depending on where the plant location is and what the sources of supply are. After that, the standard supplier will deliver the goods, supplier will get paid. And then the last and most important aspect, that procurement and finance team needs to review what has been paid in each period and reconcile it against the budget to prepare volume variances, whether the volumes that I expected to purchase have gone up or down, price variance, that means the price that I expected to pay, that is the budget, and the final negotiated price, are they in sync and how much deviation am I seeing? And last, FX. In many cases, when you are doing global sourcing, the base contracts are in local currencies of that geography. So when you convert them into USD or euros, depending on your financial currency, then there may be an FX variation that will come in. Now, throughout this entire cycle, right, most of the activities are done using a robust source-to-pay platform, Ariba, Coupa, GP, Smart, Zycus, iValua, there are a number of them. However, there are some aspects where a connected planning solution will be a lot more useful platform to do that. And hence, we are introducing at Polestar, we have built an asset on Anaplan as a platform using connected planning modules. So we created 3 assets to assist and augment a source-to-pay platform. The first one is a budget builder, which addresses the first step where procurement, finance, and supply chain can collaborate and build a budget. Then we created a supply solver, where procurement can actually allocate volumes across all the qualified suppliers. And now the reason why supply solver is built on Anaplan and not on a source-to-pay platform is because it has a very, very amazing capability of giving access of real-time collaboration with suppliers. So suppliers can log into the platform, see exact number of items they have been awarded, and they can position or provide their ability to fulfill how much demand. So their factory capacity, etc., they can list it down. Using that and the supplier performance management inputs, category managers can allocate supplies. And last, the variance vision part, where we aggregate information from the budgeting process, from invoicing process, and create variances that can be consolidated, as well as actions can be taken about all the different 3 types of variances that we talk about. So if we move on to showcasing, so how I have planned this, that rather than showing the PowerPoint and then moving on to the application, it will become too much of to and fro between the application and the PowerPoint. So we made sure that we embed the screenshots at the right stages so we can guide you through the entire story. And then we will take the last 15 minutes to walk you through the entire application as well. So as a procurement category manager, as a finance, as a supply chain leadership in the organization, you would see something like this, a landing page. Now, all the pages that we are presenting today are configurable. Depending on your organization preferences, requirements, we can configure user personas, everything can be configured. But this is just one version of the out-of-the-box direct material sourcing platform that we wanted to showcase. So I have a budget builder section here, supply solver section, and a variance vision section. So we don't have to go through a complicated SharePoint folder structure to figure out where is my round 3 budget file anymore. All the round 1 budget information, round 2, round 3 budget information are available right here, along with the exchange rates. My supply solver for each month has been pre-configured here, which I will showcase in a minute. I do have a possibility of optimization of supply allocation, depending on lowest cost, depending on best lead time, as well as other custom-made scenarios. I can optimize the supply allocation automatically. So Anaplan has a phenomenal capability called Plan IQ. We leverage that Plan IQ capability to allocate supplies automatically. And last but not the least is the third variance vision product, where you can do the monthly reporting, which is every period. So Jan, Feb, March, every period, there is a input file where you can add information about what was the actual volume and actual prices, what was the actual exchange rate, and the system will automatically calculate P1 versus R3 budget. That means it will take the R3 budget, last final budget that has been prepared, compare it to the actual prices and volume you paid for this period, and prepare a inflation deflation report. And then it will also consolidate all the information and prepare a PPV report, which aggregates information on price, volume, and FX variances. And last but not the least, that we also have a capability of savings. So as a procurement manager, we love working on savings initiatives. So all the savings projects can be managed in this central place. It's like a project management platform where initiatives can be listed down, how much savings is expected, what is the status of that project, whether it is approved, not approved, realized, not realized. And depending on the flags set, some of the savings reports can flow back into PPV to reduce the impact of commodity pricing variations. So this was the monthly. And on top of that, we have quarterly forecasting, which is usually a little bit more robust, giving some organizations do want to adjust forecasted prices and volumes as well on a quarterly basis. So hence there's a whole section of 3 and 9 reporting. Once you cross 6 and 6 reporting, 6 month of actual, 6 month of forecast, 9 and 3 reporting, that means 9 month of actual, 3 month of forecast, and so on. All of that will be configured here, and you can see the data consolidated throughout the year. Please feel free to write down in case you have any questions or queries on any of the screens I'm talking about. Feel free to write them in the chat. Okay, and we can pick them up now, or we can pick them up later towards when we are done with the demo as well. We have kept though 15 minutes time towards the end of the call for any Q&A. So now what we wanted to do is go into each and every product into a little bit more detail. So let's talk about the budget builder capabilities, right? So it's again Anaplan based product that we have built. The main objective of this product is to plan for next year budget. So whatever volumes have been forecasted by supply chain, as well as the current year actual prices that I'm paying. So when I'm making FY24 budget, I have to start now. It's already August, September timeframe. Depending on your organization, you may be doing 2 or 3 rounds of budgeting. Most organizations that I have seen do 1 round of budgeting in the summer around June, July. They do a review of that budget around September, October, or fall timeframe. And December is the time when they lock the final budgets because they have a lot more visibility. Therefore, after 3 rounds of budget, you will have what is called as the final budget. Now, throughout this budgeting exercise, we do use current year actual performance. We collaborate with suppliers. We identify where the market is and input all the pricing and other information. And multiple rounds are done to an explanation of what type of favorability or unfavorability are being seen in the market. Those are established during this cycle. Now, there are 3 teams primarily that work in this budgeting cycle. Those are finance, supply chain, and procurement. Supply chain is responsible for uploading of volumes. Now, in your organization, there may be slight different, depending on setup, there will be slight different roles and responsibilities. And we can work with you if you are interested into configuring the platform so that only the relevant person have required access. But in this example, we have created supply chain is uploading the volumes, procurement is updating the prices in the base currency, and finance is providing forward-looking exchange rate for the entire FY24 or the forward-looking year. Now, another beautiful thing that Anaplan offers out of the box is ability to create scenarios. So in case supply chain has 2 or 3 volume scenarios, that if so and so happens, then my volume will be X percentage higher. Or if this event happens, then my volume will be Y% lower. For a particular product in a particular country, they can very easily create volume-based scenarios and see the different aspects of the budget. Same goes for procurement. Depending on what the sources of supplies are, depending on how their strategy is, they may be able to create multiple scenarios and highlighting, if I'm able to lock that supplier, I will get a pricing of X percentage lower than the current prices. And they can create a budget for that respect. It's just a scenario playing capability that helps people understand and shoot for going towards a particular scenario. So to summarize, in a budget builder, you would have input data as current year, year to date, depending on which time of the year you are looking at the budget, current year, year to date actuals and forecasted volumes, price, and foreign exchange data. And then next year, forecasted volumes. It can be pulled by ERP or it can be manually entered by supply chain. We have both capabilities. So at this time, I would like to highlight that, yes, Polestar also has a product called Wormhole, which can integrate with over 200 source systems and can pull information from any of those systems without any CSV or text file sharing. Therefore, in case you have any ERP, we can connect to that ERP, pull material by material expected volumes, and directly input it into Anaplan. The next input data is going to be the budgeted price, which has to be manually entered by category managers. Now, we do have capability of bulk upload also, where you can download an Excel and fill the file depending on each category manager and load it back into the system. And then finance can do the same with the FX rate. And the output of this is going to be few budgeting scenarios or full year budget scenarios, depending on how complex supply chain, procurement, and finance have made it out to be. And then with the workflow, you will finally align at a approved final budget. So that's what a budget builder exercise or a portal does in this scenario. I will now showcase a couple of screenshots of what it looks like. And then towards the end of the presentation, we'll go for a full demo. So this is what a round 3 budget file, for example, looks like. If you go into a budget builder, I'm already into round 3. So round 1, round 2 looks exactly similar. Every material that you procure is loaded here along with a full category tree. So if you use 2-level category tree or a 3-level category tree, we can configure that. In this case, minerals and vitamins, the description, it's vitamin K I'm talking about. Annual volume is expected to be 40. Now this is in 100 pounds. That means 4,000 pounds. The expected average price is going to be 60 and the currency is Thai baht. So this is the type of record that is created. This is like a master data which has been uploaded here. Now associated with each, the expectation is that supply chain has loaded the volumes in the same platform and procurement has loaded prices in the local currency. So the currencies are mentioned here. So if you look at 4, that means it's 4 Thai baht. If you look at euros, it's 5 euros. So all of that local currency based pricing have been preloaded. Now, the next logical step is obviously using giving the capabilities for team members to either upload it using bulk. So now it may be very too much data for inputting for one individual. Therefore, Anaplan has out-of-the-box capability of downloading this entire sheet. Depending on your persona, you will see only a certain set of materials. You download that materials, fill up that Excel, and bulk, you can do a bulk upload. Alternatively, in case you see something wrong or a typo, you don't have to do that entire exercise all over again. Depending on your user persona, I can go into this system for July for this material. I can just manually update this number as well. So making it extremely easy for category managers to manage their information. Now, as I mentioned before, workflows can be configured. If I am putting a pricing, for example, that is X percentage below or Y percentage higher than my current price, then it can trigger a workflow where a manager approval or a manager email notification will get generated. And last, there are a lot of capabilities on Anaplan. For example, error detection can be pre-configured. If I am typing here $4 and the expected price for this year was $40 per pound, that means there is a typo that I made. We can configure the Anaplan platform. So as soon as you load something that is unexpected, the system can auto-determine and highlight at the time of entry. So that data entry can become a lot more robust. So now this is extremely informative or useful compared to an Excel file where no such capability exists usually. Okay. This is a quick screenshot of the exchange rate section. So this is where finance, I'm assuming the base currency is USD. So for USD, you will see all the exchange rates have been listed down here. And last, for the budget process, there is a budget summary. Once you have completed all that exercise, all the collaboration, a budget summary will get generated for each country, for each category, and at a plant level. The information gets aggregated and you can see what was the current year actual versus forecast and what has been portrayed or positioned as the next year budget. And corresponding inflation, favorable or unfavorable inflation can be highlighted here. So which makes it very easy for leadership to take corrective actions. Now, all of these reporting is fully configured depending on user persona. They may see all the plants, they may see very specific plants. Depending on category manager, they may see all categories or they may see very specific their categories. Now, the charts and everything is fully configurable here. It is color coded here to bring the attention that here I'm seeing that in Germany, I'm seeing significant amount of inflation happening, about $500,000. And if I select Germany, the whole chart will refresh to show me in Germany what all categories are showing me inflation or deflation numbers. Okay, and the plant will get filtered to only the Germany plants. And we'll see more of it during the actual demo. Next, we move on to the second product, which is the supply solver. Now, this supply solver also aims to solve a very important aspect about for procurement managers. How do you allocate supply to the suppliers? especially as we were talking about with the supply chains becoming a lot more complex, geopolitical, environmental, currencies, all of these things being in very volatile market. How do you allocate, identify and allocate good supply? You need a lot more information rather than doing a rock paper scissors methodology to allocate supply. Right? There is a whole strategy involved. What is the cost that the supplier is giving? How is the supplier performance? How is the supplier contractual commitments? How are the supplier payment terms? How strategic is the supplier? Various aspects play into that decision making for a category manager. And therefore, our aim with Supply Solver was to bring all of that information at one place so that it becomes easy for the category manager to take a decision. Now, that's why this exercise needs to happen on a monthly basis, because depending on my strategy, depending on my variances that I'm seeing or prices offered by the supplier, I may want to change my strategy month over month, depending on environment or other aspects that we are seeing in the market, environmental challenges and so on. Like Suez Canal now is drying up. If I have sources of supply that are closer to that, I may have to reduce expectations from there and move my supply elsewhere. Therefore, there is so much variability month over month that will require me to allocate supplies, review supplies at least every month. Now, here there are three people involved, or three teams primarily involved. There is a buyer planner involvement to issue the purchase order, there is a supplier involvement, and there is a procurement involvement. Now, procurement is expected to review the supply performance data on a periodic basis, look at the available capacity that the supplier has provided, work with them on how much capacity can they allocate, how much is the strategic nature of their relationship, and then allocate the TAM, or total available market, across suppliers. Suppliers' expectation is that they will review the forecast monthly and provide information out of the available forecast that is expected from them, how much can they commit. And once the commitment has been done, it is expected they will deliver on time. And the data that they have inputted becomes the output for the supplier performance for the next cycle. And last, for the buyers, can review the allocated capacity and plan for their purchase order issuance for a specific material and for a specific plant. Now, the actual allocation and issuance of PO is not happening on Anaplan. That activity will remain in the procurement platforms or source to pay platforms. However, the strategy development for buyers can also happen on Anaplan. Now, the type of information we need here is we need the list of qualified suppliers, which suppliers are approved by quality for me to be issuing a purchase order to them, as well as we need information about past year purchase orders and receipt to calculate supplier performance information. And an output of this whole module is going to be a guidance on what volumes can be allocated to each supplier, as well as volume commitments that the supplier has provided. And using those two aspects, buyers can plan for actual allocation. Now, suppliers might want to say that give me 80% of your volumes, but as a strategy, procurement can put only 40%. And then the buyer will take a decision, can they go 50 or can they keep to 40? Because supplier is asking for more. If you have to look at a screenshot of what it looks like, the supply plan screen is extremely simple with only relevant information available for category managers. We have taken extra step here to ensure that only relevant info is available and we don't clutter this page for them. So this is exercise that is happening on a monthly basis. For all the materials that are in my portfolio as a category manager, I will look at what was the budgeted volume for the month, what is the budgeted price, what is the current year average price that I'm paying so far. And I'm seeing a list of all the qualified suppliers. In this case, we have assumed at least 10 to 12 suppliers. Now, depending on category, there may be only 1, 2, or 5 suppliers qualified as well. So across all of these qualified suppliers, I am seeing their latest contracted price, which is all coming directly from your P2P system or catalog system if it is readily available, or contracting system, depending on how detailed your contracts are. We can pull this information automatically for each material number. We are putting supplier rating and supplier scores. Now, these can be computed either in your procurement platforms or can be configured to be computed on the Anaplan as well. It also has a section of current allocation. So that means by last month or this month, you have been doing 70% and 30% allocation between garnish foods and food grades. However, for reallocation purposes, you may go ahead and change it to as many suppliers as you want. So in this case, instead of giving 70 to garnish, I'm giving 75% to garnish, 10% to foods pad, 10% to fuel foods, and 5% to fresh harvest. Now, as soon as I enter this reallocation, the system will take these prices, multiply the volumes in the allocated for weighted average of allocations, and calculate a weighted price. which comes out to 1373. Then it will take a delta of that 1373 with the budget price of $24 and show me a favorability of $10. That means the price that I budgeted is significantly higher than what I'm actually paying in the market. And one multiplied that favorability with the budgeted volumes will give me total favorable position. That I will save $57,000 compared to my budget based on this reallocation. Now, if I am short on other commodities are giving me significantly higher inflation, I may want to leverage lower costs for this material where I'm seeing some benefits. So I should or I can go to a lower cost supplier like 1365 rather than giving 70. I can allocate the entire 100% to them as well. Okay, so that's the capability that the system will offer to category managers to be able to look at all the information that is necessary for them to take decisions. Okay, I'll give a minute to digest and then I'll move on to, and this is category by category because our assumption is that this is for each category manager, they will want to look at materials in a specific category. But if the requirement is to configure it by category manager, that can be done as well. So Anaplan as a platform is extremely configurable. All the possibilities that you can think of, most likely they will be possible using the Anaplan platform. Okay, let's move to the variance vision. So variance vision is a platform that, is an asset that helps you track the financial performance compared to the budgeted numbers. It has, as I was explaining earlier, monthly reporting as well as quarterly reporting. Quarterly reporting tends to give 3 and 9, 6 and 6 type of information, where you take 3 months of actuals and 9 months of forecast and other information and calculate PPV. Now, most organizations that I have worked with do not like to update the budget once every month on a monthly basis. Most organizations that I'm familiar with usually do the budget re-evaluation only on a quarterly basis. So once they look at 3 months of trend, then they will evaluate for the 9-month forecast. They will go out and change. Once they evaluate 6 months of actuals, then they will forecast for the next 6 months what the information is going to look like. But if your organization is different, there is no restrictions on the platform side. We can do that exercise on a monthly basis as well. Hence, I have specified here that monthly inflation reporting is having on a monthly basis, but there is a quarterly PPV reporting with focus on forecasting updates also that is happening on a quarterly basis. In terms of team, the same 3 teams that were working on budget building also work on variance vision, where procurement is expected to review the actual price paid compared to the budget and decide on the strategy of what their allocation needs to be to maintain the budget. If a renegotiation is required, if a new supplier qualification is required, if the reallocation of supply is required, so those strategies procurement has to make. And then for supply chain needs to review the volumes and update whether is there something going on about why the volumes of a particular product are higher or lower than significantly higher or lower than what was planned or budgeted. And they may have to work with marketing to understand if some promotion has to be run in order to boost the volumes, or some promotion has to be done for other products in order to develop a better product portfolio. And finance has to review the actual FX rates and their hedging positions on each currency to manage this FX fluctuations in a better way. In terms of input and output of this variance vision platform, the input is going to be the budget that came from the budget builder. The input will come on supplier TAM allocation, or total available market allocation, that we did in Supply Solver. We can pull the invoice paid data directly from the AP system, as I was mentioning, using Wormhole as a technology platform. And we need the actual FX rate that we paid from the treasury scheme. And output of this entire module is going to be the variance reports, so price, volume, and FX variance. We will also get the complete aggregated annual inflation scenario, and I'll showcase it to you in a minute. As well as after the quarterly update is done, then you will receive the updated annual budget. So once the budget builder activity is complete, we don't go back into the budget builder. The variance vision takes over the activity and builds the budget going forward. The look and feel, we have tried to make it exactly same as budget builder so that team members don't have to learn a completely new page. So it looks very, very similar to that. To the budget builder page, all the materials are listed here: material group, subgroup, description, plant, currency. You would notice that only the January data is editable in this case, and rest everything is non-editable. So our expectation or the configuration in this one is that either through bulk upload, as you see on the right hand side, bulk upload, or through manual editing, finance supply chain teams can update the volumes. Similarly, there is a section on pricing for procurement teams to review the pricing and make changes or updates. If I am doing this on a configuration where the entire budget can be changed on a monthly basis, this is what your comparison of monthly report versus R3 budget is going to look like. So on a monthly basis, you will get a report out of the system about what you planned during budget, and after the first actual month, what the output looks like. So at each ingredient level, at each material level, for a specific plant, for a specific location, you will see whether I'm seeing favorability or unfavorability in the expected market compared to the budget that I made. And all of these numbers get aggregated, which I'll show you in a minute. Okay, you do have ability, as I was mentioning, you can do it only for a particular month, or you can update the entire budget for the whole year on a monthly basis. Okay, now how is this inflation calculated? There are three inputs that go into this: the price variances that come, the volume variances, as well as the foreign exchange rate variances. Together, all of those three things combine to give you net inflation. And all of these calculations are auto. So there is no manual touch point ever involved in this. As soon as I load my pricing and my volumes, actual price and actual volume, it takes the input from budget and auto computes all the numbers. And this is what the final budget summary is going to look like. So again, configurable pages, but we have configured it to most suitable thing that we can propose right now is that across all categories, there is a budgeted spend, there is an actual spend. So I'm seeing that for Sydney plant here, which I have filtered for, my budget was $115 million. My actual spend is only $100 million. I'm seeing a favorable price PPV of 5 million. I'm seeing 5,000. I'm seeing a volume variance favorable of 6.5 million, and I'm seeing an FX variance of 2.9, which aggregated is giving me the 14 million favorable inflation compared to the budget that I planned for. And all of these charts and graphs are super configurable and very easy to understand, fairly self-explanatory. If something is positive or a favorable, it's going to show up as negative. If something is unfavorable, it's going to show up as a positive number. We also look at all the budgeted spend, all the actual prices that I'm paying to suppliers, and we can compute how many suppliers am I overpaying in this plant and how many suppliers am I underpaying compared to the budgeted numbers. And these are threshold based. So 5, 6%, 3% up and down, you can create as a tolerance. Any supplier that you are paying above that tolerance can be highlighted here. And these are all reports that can be exported out of Anaplan as well. And how many suppliers am I underpaying? Underpaying a supplier is not necessarily always a good thing. There may be a strategic element involved. There may be a supply risk or a quality risk that may be playing into picture. So reviewing of suppliers who are undercutting costs and providing is also a very good or important procurement strategy. Okay, so quickly to summarize, there are three components or modules we spoke about today. We spoke about the budget builder, we spoke about supply solver and variance vision. Budget builder helps us to prepare for next year budget through collaboration. Supply solver helps procurement to collaborate with supply and identify their capacity and allocate volumes for each material level. And variance vision looks at the actual AP data and compares it to the budget and prepares price, volume, and FX variances and calculates or computes the net inflation. If done correctly, through all of these programs, through all of these modules, we do anticipate significant advantages that can come in the entire direct material procurement budgeting process. We can get amazing amount of accessibility because it's a SaaS-based platform. Nobody needs access to a SharePoint folder to see the structure. They can access it on their phone. Anaplan has a phenomenal app that can be used to access. There is a lot of efficiency in the process because it's workflow driven. People are seeing only the information they need to. It is information notifications can be triggered or configured to be triggered for people as soon as their action is needed. Anaplan supports multiple type of persona. Therefore, people are only seeing or viewing information that is expected for them to be seen. It retains the entire data for previous years also. Therefore, you can leverage or see the insights. Now, Plan IQ, the data science element of Anaplan, can look at that data and predict what some of those prices, etc., are going to look like for the budget, which could be one of the things to validate against. When you are building a budget, I can look at 3 to 5 year past data if it is available and use Plan IQ to forecast that this material is expected to be at this level. Therefore, that's another validation that can be done on the budgeting numbers. We can collaborate with suppliers, fully automated. Everything is real time. I'm not waiting for anyone to update a file. As soon as they update a file, I'll receive a notification and I can start working on my activity. Okay. We can build scenarios. There is a lot of focus from organizations on data security. Therefore, all information is only need to know basis. IT team needs to approve that ANA plan only at the beginning of the engagement. Once the ANA plan as a software is approved, then there is no involvement of IT teams in most capacities. Businesses should be able to configure that entire platform and manage it completely on their own. I know it was a mouthful. I did have time for platform showcase, but looks like we have only 10 minutes left. So maybe I'll pass on to that and see if there are any questions from the audiences. But before that, we'll just do a quick poll and then we'll go on to the question and answers.
Thank you, Sid and Ankit, for the lovely demonstration and this exhaustive session. This, I think, was really helpful. I'm getting a lot of comments in the chat. So yeah, just once again reiterating, if you have any questions or you want a personalized demonstration of this application, feel free to reach out to us, or you can reach out to Sid and Ankit directly. Thank you all once again for joining in. Have a great day ahead.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining.